questions. And Kobi, I'm going to start with you. What's a good workable description of AI?
Thanks. What an excellent question for this session. I love to start these kinds of sessions with what we're actually talking about, because I think a lot of the time we're talking past each other. So a lot of the other sessions have talked about AI, and when you listen to what's being said, what they're really talking about is Gen AI most of the time and large language models a lot of the time. Most of you will have heard the spiel from one of us, probably at some point, that AI's been around since the 50s. 56 was the first conference. But there's another term I'm going to use, and I'm going to propose AI is often what you'll hear when the thing doesn't work yet. When it's being sold to you, it's AI. Once you start to govern it, it's not AI anymore. And the reason I'm going to say that is that I've been doing AI impact assessments, or some kind of version thereof, for the last 5 years in my career, and I've seen it gamed. So I'm going to refer to a term from 2004 from the Administrative Review Council of Australia that refers to expert systems. And the Australian government back in 2004 said we shouldn't be using expert systems that have discretion in administrative judgments in Australia. It's almost like we've forgotten that.
Fabulous.
The real challenge now is, and if I can break regulation down into all kinds of different pieces, ISO 42001 was mentioned. That's the new international AI management standard in which Australia has punched well above its weight in terms of contributing to and having provisions put into that standard. There is going to be an uplift globally which Australia is going to need to catch up on, because we've been sitting in that maybe we have ethics principles, and there are some organisations in Australia that do, but what's missing are the processes. And if you don't have the processes, the principles will change nothing. And then the other piece is the people. You can't have those processes if you don't have an organisation that understands what's going on, but also the rewards. Boards need to have a risk appetite for AI. You're going to need to have KPIs for your execs that say you need to do this ethically, because if you have KPIs for execs that are only get these tech tools over the line, it doesn't matter what ethics principles you've got, it doesn't matter what processes you've got, they're going to be steamrolled, and I've seen this in action. The whole piece has to align, and it's difficult. The devil's in the detail. For those in the room who do this work, it's complex. Everything's a trade-off. I could see Chris down the back nod. We don't have a Privacy Act that provides enough coverage. We should stop talking about PI, because it doesn't matter anymore with AI. 3 data points and I can re-identify anybody. You really need to rethink what your strategies are internally. And so I think from a national security perspective and from a broader perspective in terms of nefarious use, there's too much money and too much interest in it continuing the way it is. And that's really problematic longer term. I think what we're not realising is that the same things that we're using it for, or thinking of using these tools for, others can use against us. And there are enormous risks right now in terms of how that can play out. Because I won't be on a panel without talking about environmental impacts, and you've just raised it. Singapore has just decided to not put more data centres in, because they're now heading up against arable land and data centres. Arable land requires water and energy, and so do data centres. And I think this is going to be an increasing issue, the type of compute that's going to be needed to do anything near what you're talking about. We're going to be so far gone in terms of the food and water we're going to need to survive that that's another thing that we really need to be contemplating. So every ChatGPT inquiry is a glass of water poured out, for those who are not aware. The energy resources of these tools are incredibly high, which means they're also quite expensive. Hence, what's your business problem? Does it need AI, or could you use something much simpler?